Peace, Ken family. EM Hotep. Welcome to Self-Care Sessions with Ba and Aset. I am Ba and Aset. And today we're going to be talking about signs of low vibration people. Okay? Signs of low vibration people and solutions. So the solutions I'm providing are for those who recognize themselves in this description and for those of you who are dealing with other people who you recognize from this description of what I'm going to be talking about today. And hi to everybody who's joining. If you're coming in, just send me a little wave so I know you're in here. I see Nebit Het in here. That's my sister Ikerti. I see Ebony Jewel. I see Dr. MLW. Okay, you're back. Excellent. Okay, so if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. And if you are a returning follower or subby on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube later on, welcome back. Okay, my name is Ba and Aset. I am a licensed registered nurse and a certified wellness coach. Okay. So what I do is I provide African-centered solutions for mind, body, and spiritual wholeness. Okay, all of my solutions are African-centered to cater to my community. I focus on 4 distinct wellness modalities. That would be nutrition, energy healing, language, and sacred movement. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about signs of low vibration people. And I thought this was an important topic to discuss because a lot of people who come to me after dealing with stress or anxiety or depression or even physical illness because of certain relationships that they're in, whether it's family relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, co-worker relationships, any of those types where they're dealing with certain types of people, okay? People who are causing them a lot of headache and they don't know how to deal with them, okay? So we're going to talk about why that is, okay? But we're going to speak about it from an energy perspective. Let me send out some waves to y'all who are coming in. Okay. So what I've learned from these types of misalignments with certain relationships is that it's not always personal. Sometimes you have issues with people, you can't communicate with them, and it's not always personal. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's that the people do not necessarily mean you well. But that's not always the case. A lot of times it is vibrational. It's a matter of misaligned frequencies. So if you've ever heard the quote by Tesla, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. So to start out, let's define what all of those things are. We talked about energy a little bit on our last live. So energy is the ability to exert force. Okay? It's the ability to exert life force. All living things hold energy. All living things hold a certain amount of energy. And in every single tradition around the world, there are different terms for this. In the Kemetic tradition, we use the term sekem. Sekem. It's your internal vital energy or life force. You may have heard the term chi by Chinese. You may have heard the term ki by the Japanese, or prana as the Indians call it. Okay? So we all have different terms for this life force. Right? Now, we're all made up of a certain amount of energy which is in constant motion. And that energy that's in constant motion is called a vibration. Okay, so that's what vibration means. Energy that's in constant motion. And that creates a certain energetic field. And that energetic field can be measured. That's what frequency is. That energy field that's created by your energy in constant motion, that vibrational field, is called frequency. And that's measured in terms of hertz. So you have megahertz, gigahertz, terahertz. Okay, that's how it is measured, and it's measured by biofrequency machines. I talk about this in my book, High Vibration Nutrition, as well. Today, we're not going to talk about the vibration of foods. We're going to talk about people. Okay, we're going to talk about people. And everyone that you come into contact with is on a certain vibration based on all 4 levels of wellness, meaning the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. So whatever consistent patterns a person has in their life, whatever consistent thoughts they have, whatever consistent emotions they have, whatever their spiritual alignment is, whether they're connected or disconnected spiritually, or whatever their physical state of illness is or wellness is where they're going to be vibrating, whether high, low, or somewhere in the middle. So I hope that makes sense. If this is making sense to you all, let me know. Put a 1 in the comments. Okay. Let me send out some waves. Okay. Put a 1 in the comments if this is making sense to you. Okay, I got a 1 from Sinet Akurti. Dua. Okay. So if you are a person, for example, who is vibrating on a higher frequency, that means generally you have a certain thought pattern that is on a higher frequency. You are thinking more positive thoughts. You may be focused more on gratitude. You may be thinking about great ideas. Also, you may be vibrating on a high emotional level, meaning you're always focused on peace, on love, on gratitude. You're going to have a higher vibrational frequency than somebody who, for example, is focused on all of the negative things that are happening to them in life. They're constantly focused on other people. They can see the bad in everything that's going on. So those are some of the things that create your vibrational frequency. Also, if you're a person who takes immaculate care of your physical body, you eat extremely well, okay? You have a great diet. You exercise. You're naturally going to be vibrating higher, much higher than somebody who doesn't eat so well, and definitely higher than someone who doesn't move their physical body at all. They eat nothing but crap food, okay? And artificial foods. Dr. MLW says, please, okay, please call me Mike. Excellent. Okay. So if you are a person who is vibrating on this very, very high frequency, and you are communicating with someone who tends to vibrate on a much lower frequency, and you all come into contact with each other, what that looks like a lot of the times is that you all cannot communicate. That's what it looks like. It looks like someone who is constantly arguing with you, someone who is finding fault with everything that you're saying. Sometimes you're saying things that seem to be very, very simple, and it's going completely over their head. It's not that the person that you're dealing with is slow or has negative, well, sometimes it is that they have negative intentions for you, but oftentimes it's because they're vibrating on a much lower frequency. It's kind of like if you think about being on the wrong radio station. If you have ever, we don't really use radios that much anymore, but if you're trying to get into a certain station and you're hearing all of this static, the frequency is off. You need to be tuned into the right radio station in order to hear the message that's coming through, the messages that you want. Okay? Peace to you again, TT Boy BK. Peace. So if you are talking to someone who's on a much lower frequency than you, oftentimes they're not going to hear what it is that you have to say. Even if they recognize that there's something about you where you're vibrating higher, a lot of times there's two types of people that you'll get. You'll get someone on one hand who may be curious, who may see, okay, she knows something that I don't know. Let me ask her about it. And that's usually the only way that you can communicate with somebody whose vibration is much lower than yours, which is in a teacher-student kind of relationship. Meaning they become curious about you and they start asking you questions. That doesn't happen a lot of the time. What usually happens is that you become somewhat of a threat to the other person's ego, and they don't want to hear what you have to say. So you're essentially trying to communicate with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. Okay? So the ego gets in the way. And you all cannot communicate with each other. Now, the reason I'm talking with you about this is because I come into contact with a lot of empaths, a lot of light workers, a lot of really beautiful people who cannot understand why they keep getting into relationships with people where they're being mistreated or they're being abused. And they want to recognize the signs of the types of people who will do this with them. A lot of time it's a vibrational misalignment. Okay? So these are some signs of people who are vibrating very low. These are some signs. The first sign is someone who lives in a very filthy, cluttered environment. Let me see what Sister Akurti says. She says, it makes a lot of sense. I just bought your book, High Vibrational Foods. Is this what you're speaking on in another book? Can I purchase? Sinette Akurti here. Perfect timing for this conversation. Give thanks. Yes, I did see your order, Sinette. I don't know what other book is specifically talking about this, but that's what I'm talking about in my book. That is the whole reason that I wrote the book the way that I did. I wanted it to be understood on the simplest terms. And yes, it's a nutrition book because nutrition is one of the easiest ways to raise the vibration. Because it changes the pH of the blood. A lot of us have a very acidic environment for our blood and our organs, and it creates illness, it creates disease. And when you raise the frequency of the type of foods that you're eating, you change the pH of the blood, you make it more alkaline, and you also raise your frequency. You understand? So I start there, but I also discuss all 4 levels of wellness in the book and solutions on how to raise your frequency, your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical body, and your spirituality as well for those who are spiritually disconnected. So thank you for asking that question, Sinette. Okay. So the first sign that I said is someone who lives in a very filthy or cluttered environment. Whatever was going on in your head, whatever is going on in your head is going to reflect on the outside in one way or another. And usually what that looks like with someone who has a lot going on that they have not resolved, a lot of issues that have been swept under the rug, so it gets piled up. Your physical environment starts to look like that. And it's a reflection of what's going on in your mind and in your heart. A lot of things that you haven't let go of. And it weighs people down. And this is something I can talk about from personal experience as someone who grew up in a household with a mother who had issues with hoarding. I saw it. I saw it personally. Okay? And I have also seen it with other people who have issues with hoarding. There's a whole lot going on in these people's head. That's a big sign that somebody is vibrating on a very, very low frequency. They live in a filthy, cluttered environment. There's a reason that there is a saying that cleanliness is next to godliness. There's a reason. And that's not just originating from a Christian perspective. That's an ancient African perspective. We know in African spirituality that keeping your home clean, because your home is another temple. You have your mind, which is a temple. Your heart is a temple. Your whole physical body, your avatar, is a temple. And your home is also a temple. And we know that the high spirits, you can call them angels, but you can also call them higher emotions, don't dwell in dirty spaces. They just don't. So the Starry Sky Oracle, I like that name, says they also don't want to let things go. They're staying stagnant. Yes, exactly. They have issues with letting things go. And that's how it manifests physically. They literally cannot let things go. They can't let physical things go. They have 500 of every single item. I had a friend who had 50 different cutting boards in his house. I'm like, why do you need so many cutting boards? Why? 1 million different clothes. You can't wear all those clothes. They have an abundance of stuff, and they can never throw anything out, even if it's useless. If you ever dealt with someone who is a hoarder, you know, even things that are useless, they're filthy, they are broken, they cannot throw them away. This is something I used to have to fight about with my mom. I would have to clean the house and throw things away in secret. And we could not get along because of this. We could not get along because I really like a very clean environment. So I would have to throw things away in secret, because if I would put it in the garbage and she saw it, she would dig back in the garbage and take it out. Everything you throw away, oh, that's my good so-and-so. Oh, that's my good book. Oh, that's my... It didn't matter if it was broken. It didn't matter what it was. Everything had use in her eyes. Have a hard time letting things go. Okay? So, what is a response? I'm going to try to give y'all a solution for every single one. What's a response dealing with somebody who lives in a filthy environment? Their vibration is low because they live in a filthy environment. The first thing is... one, you maintain a clean environment so that they can see the difference. Because when people get used to living a certain way, they think that's normal. And they will convince themselves that it's normal and that everybody lives like that. If I say anything to my mom or my sister now who has the same issue, they'll say, this is normal. Like, you're just a clean freak. You're obsessive. You like everything clean. No, how you live is not normal. It's not normal. Mike says, I believe that a lot of the issues that lower our vibration are systemic. They are historically designed to keep us in that vibration. That is very true. That is very true. And that's why I focus on our culture, which is to return us to our natural state. Our state prior to being inundated with constant trauma and separating us from ourselves and our culture. That's why I focused on that. Okay. So that's one of the solutions. Maintain a clean environment. And also refuse to be in their filthy environment. Refuse to join them in that environment. They have to have someone tell them the truth, because a lot of times people lie to themselves. They will convince themselves that the way they are living is normal, that everybody lives that like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you go and sit down in the filth with them, they think that you're comfortable with it, and it's perfectly fine. But the more they have people around them who tell them, you need to clean your place up, this doesn't look so good, or I'm not really comfortable being here, you're going to have to meet me at my house, or we're going to have to go out, just refuse to join them in that filthy environment. Okay? The second sign that I want to talk about is the second sign of people who have a low vibration is that happy people irritate them. Happy people irritate them. I know you all have heard that term, that your light irritates their demons. You've heard that before, right? Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard that saying before. Your light is irritating their demons. Yeah, so that's one of the signs that a person has a very, very low vibration, is they get very irritated by people who are joyful. That's weird to me. That's very weird. Laughter is supposed to be contagious. Happiness is supposed to be contagious. You know that someone is quite miserable when you are walking around floating on air happy, and that bothers them. That's a huge sign that you're dealing with someone who's on a very low vibration. And I have experienced that as well. One of the things that I'll notice with people who are on a low vibration is when you walk into a room with them, they may roll their eyes, sigh, who she thinks she is. They'll talk about you nasty. Okay? One of the reasons for that is because, remember how I told you that the only way that you can communicate with, there are 2 ways you can communicate with someone who's on a low vibration. One is they have to recognize that you have a higher vibration and want to learn from you. The other is that they lower your vibration. That's the other way. So in order for you all to communicate, is y'all have to be on the same frequency, which means either they're going to raise their frequency to match yours. So they're going to have to learn how to raise their frequency. So they'll learn from you. They'll start to match you. They'll start to do things that you're doing because they want to experience that state of being. The other thing that they'll do, which is the more common thing with toxic people, is they will do things to lower your frequency. Like they will put you down. They will dismiss you. They will be rude to you. They will be nasty to you. They will gossip about you. They'll talk bad about you. They will slander you. They will bully you. They will mistreat you. And you will think there's something wrong with you. No. No. That's the only way they know how to communicate with you, because something in them, their ego, feels threatened by seeing you on a higher vibration. So this is a solution for anybody who is experiencing this. If you are the type of person that you feel envious or jealous when you see somebody who's vibrating a lot higher than you, either that person is much more beautiful than you are, they're happier than you are, they're richer than you, instead of speaking poorly of that person, understand. See, remember, we're talking in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. Whenever you see a person who is doing better than you, that is an opportunity for you to shift dimensions. Stay with me. That is an opportunity for you to shift dimensions, meaning to shift from where you are to where that person is. If only you look at that person and recognize what it is about them that's making you feel jealous, because that's what we're supposed to learn from jealousy. All of our emotions are there to teach us something. There's something in that person that you want, that you admire, that you wish to have. Recognize what it is and be honest about that. And then have the courage to find out how to get that for yourself. Meaning you either observe the person and learn from them, or you ask them. Develop a relationship with the person. Speak with them. Learn from them. And that's how you raise your frequency. That's how you do that. That's the solution for if happy people irritate you. Learn what it is about them that's making them happy, that's making them vibrate on such a high frequency. If it's someone who looks a lot more beautiful than you, maybe there's a certain way that they take care of themselves that you could learn too. That person is giving you an opportunity to shift dimensions, to jump, quantum leap in a whole different direction, in a whole different dimension. So that's what that is. That's what that's supposed to mean. Okay? Now the lesson for you, if you're dealing with people who tend to get irritated by you because you're very happy, is to learn how to move in a room full of vultures. Learn how to be happy even amongst other people who want to put you down, want to see you down. How you do that is don't interact with them as much. Don't give them the space to be able to pull your energy down. Interact with the people who like you in the room. Spend more time with the people who love you and adore you. Go where the love is. Don't give them the attention that they're seeking by trying to pull your energy down. That's how you deal with that. Or avoid them altogether. Avoid them altogether. Okay? All right, so the next sign, the third sign of people who have a low vibration is someone who does not have a purpose. No purpose. Oh, and I have something I want to show y'all too with this. So let me get that out. So someone who doesn't know that they have a purpose is definitely going to have a low vibrational energy, because that's a person who is spiritually disconnected. It's not natural to believe that you have no purpose. It's not natural. Because logic would tell you that everything has a purpose. Even so-called inanimate objects have a purpose. This water bottle has a purpose. This chain has a purpose. Your phone has a purpose. A spoon has a purpose. All things that exist have a purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. So that is a huge sign that somebody is on a low vibrational frequency, is that they don't have a purpose, or they don't know what their purpose is. Okay? It says that you are ignorant of the spiritual realm, or that you have some areas, some crown chakra healing to do. Okay? Some areas when it comes to spirituality that you have to work on. Okay? Empress Queen says, show the chain. I can't hide it. Okay. So what is the solution if you feel like you do not have a purpose? The first thing is to know who you are. Figure out who you are. If you know what something is, then you know what the purpose of it is. So if you had never seen a spoon before, and I told you what the spoon was, you would automatically know what the purpose of it is, because you know what the item is. A lot of times when people do not know what their purpose is, it's because they don't know who they are. So that means it's important for you to know your personal history, your likes, your dislikes, all of those things, but also your family history, your cultural history, and world history, your place in this world. That's a part of understanding your purpose. Exactly, Mike. Know thyself. Know thyself. The other thing that you can do when it comes to knowing your purpose is, if you don't know who you are, get around someone else who does know who they are. Oftentimes, you will begin to figure out what your purpose is through interacting with them. Okay? In the Kemetic tradition, we call this a jegna. A jegna. Jegna. Okay? In Western culture, you'll hear people use the term mentor. You need a mentor to figure out who you are. We don't use that term because it has a very negative connotation that we don't want to adopt. Okay? A mentor in Greek culture was the man who introduced the little boy to his first juk in the behind. A lot of people don't know that. That's why we don't use that term. The word jegna is an Ethiopian term, which is a spiritual guide who can show you the way on your journey. So I've had several jegnas on my path as a holistic healer. Queen of Four is one of my jegnas. I literally sat at Queen of Four's feet. Mfundishi Jehutimus was one of my jegnas. These are people who have walked a particular spiritual path and have stood the test of time, and through spending time with them. Remember, I talked about someone else of a higher frequency pulling you up towards their frequency because you're willing to learn from them. That's how you do it. You want a jegna. Someone who is walking a righteous path, walking somewhere that you admire, where you want to be. When you get around them, you will figure out your purpose. That's one of the ways. Mike says our culture is our immunity. Yes, that's why I always say it. Your healing is in your culture. Now, I wanted to show you all this. I printed this out today. And this is a little diagram, a purpose diagram, if you can see it. Okay? And I'm going to discuss what it says. I hope it's not coming up backwards, but I think it is. So I'm going to kind of read it out to you, because this is going to be helpful for anybody who is trying to figure out what their purpose is. One of the first things you want to know is what you love. And that's right here in the top, in case it's coming up backwards. What you love to do. Okay? Your passions. The other thing you want to know is what you are good at. What you're good at. That's a part of your passion and also your profession. So that's where the things that you love and how you make your money meet each other. The other thing you want to know is that which the world needs. So what is needed in this world? I can't flip it. How am I going to flip it? Can't flip it. I know it's backwards because that's how technology works. This is like a mirror image. But I just want to show you I had this little diagram. So I guess I'll just read it to you. Okay? All right. So you want to know that which the world needs. That's where your mission and your vocation meet. That which the world needs. So you want to look out into your community. Look at the things in your community where you have certain people who may be on a lower vibration that they're always complaining about. They're complaining and complaining and complaining. Whenever you see something in the world that you do not like, that irritates you, that aggravates you, that you're like, we need this. Do you realize that the reason you're the one noticing it is because you are the one who can change it? You have the ability to change it. That's why you're noticing it. The things that bother one person don't bother everybody else. You're seeing it because it's on you. The onus is on you to change it, to do something about it. Okay? So figure out that which the world needs. That's a part of figuring out your purpose. And the last thing is that which you can be paid for. That which you can be paid for. Okay? And when all of those things collide together, your purpose is right there in the middle. That's how you figure out your purpose. What you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Okay? So I hope that was clear. The fourth sign of low vibrational people. These are people who are very defensive. Very defensive. People who cannot take critical feedback. Okay, they lack self-awareness. They refuse to look at themselves. Okay, get very, very angry whenever you offer them any type of feedback. It may not even necessarily be negative. You may be coming from a good place. You may not be trying to judge the person. You may genuinely want to help the other person. But their ego is so big and they lack self-awareness to the degree that they cannot take any type of feedback. They become very defensive. That is a huge sign of someone who is vibrating very low. Okay? There's a saying that people who cannot communicate think that everything that's said is an attack. So you're just trying to communicate with the person so y'all can get on the same page, and they think you're attacking them. And usually they'll respond in certain maladaptive ways. I'm going to try to stay away from some of the common terms that I think we're getting really sick of, like the narcissist and the toxic, and, you know, a lot of people kind of tune out when they hear those words. Okay? They'll usually respond in certain ways that are very maladaptive. So sometimes they will project, right? They'll project. Projection is where they are guilty of doing a particular thing, and because they lack self-awareness and they lack accountability, they will say, you're the one doing it. You are actually the one doing it. So it's like, remember when you were kids and you would say, nana, nana, boo, boo, whatever bounces off of me, whatever I don't like bounces off of me, it sticks to you. That's what they're doing. Whatever you say to them, it bounces off of them and it sticks to you. So they're going to take those negative characteristics that you put on them and just put it on you. That's projection. It sounds very childish, right? Because it is. It is. Okay. Another tactic that they'll use is they will deflect. Meaning, so I'll tell you, why did you do X, Y, Z? And they'll say, well, what about when you did X, Y, Z? Okay, but that's not what we're talking about right now. If you had a problem with that, why didn't you bring that up before? Why are you bringing it up now when I'm trying to talk to you about this particular situation? They deflect. Because they're defensive. And they don't want to be held accountable for whatever it is that they're doing. Okay? Another tactic that they use is they'll just have emotional outbursts. They'll start screaming or cursing. And that's a way to shut down the conversation. Because if they start screaming, you're going to have a certain reaction. You may have an emotional reaction. You may get scared. You may just feel like, I just don't want to talk to this person anymore. It's too much. That's what they were hoping for. Emotional outbursts. They'll scream. They'll yell. They'll curse. They'll break things, throw things. Okay? These are people who are very defensive. Low vibrational. Okay. Another way they'll respond is they'll be very dismissive. So eye rolling. Bring that to me again. or they'll ignore you. They'll walk away from the conversation, dismissive. Okay? This is really a sign of somebody who has very low self-esteem. They have a lot of shame. So they cannot take it when you point out anything about them that does not show them in a good light. You understand? So I'll give you solutions for how you deal with these people and what to do if you are this person. Okay. If you're dealing with people who are defensive, one of the ways that you can communicate with them is to use I statements. So instead of saying, you did this, even though it's true, they're going to get defensive. They're going to tune you out. They're not going to want to hear it. So instead of saying you did this, use I statements. So when I came in and I saw that the laundry was not taken care of and that the laundry was all over the floor, I felt very overwhelmed. Rather than saying, you so nasty, why you leave the clothes all over the floor? You understand? Use I statements when you're talking to people who are really defensive. Okay. Express how it made you feel. Another thing you can do is compromise with them. Try to compromise with them. Meet them in the middle rather than showing them how everything was their fault, even if it is. You know they can't take it. You know they can't take it, saying it to them like that. So try to compromise. And the last thing you can do is just walk away. Walk away. Now you may walk away temporarily to say, you know what, it seems like you're not able to handle the conversation right now, or it seems like this may not be a good time. When we're able to talk about this in a calm way, let's talk about this in another 30 minutes or in another hour, or let's talk about this tomorrow. We can come back to the conversation tomorrow when you're a little bit more calm. So you can walk away temporarily, but if this is a habitual thing with someone that you're dealing with, you can walk away permanently, meaning don't deal with the person again. Just stop dealing with them altogether. In my experience, I just stopped dealing with certain people. And that's not everybody. That's not everybody. But there's certain types of people who are habitually defensive and you can never communicate with them. It doesn't matter what you say, how you say it. They just don't want to hear you. So Mike says, I think that we all also would benefit by recognizing that we all vibrate at different levels at different times. That is true. That is true. But there are people who vibrate at certain levels consistently. And that's what I'm talking about. Like everyone can have days where you may be a little bit more pessimistic than other days. But generally, you are a higher vibrational person. And even someone who's, vibrates typically on a lower frequency, they're going to have great days. Sometimes they'll have good days. But that's not their set point unless they make it that way by doing things that would raise their frequency on a regular basis. Shay Waterman says, even when it's family, I am having difficulties with that right now. Walking away, I feel bad. Absolutely, even when it's family. Absolutely, even when it's family. Been there, done that. And I would say, actually, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say especially if it's family. But you definitely have to do it with family because family has the most emotional hold on you. So it's easier for them to trigger you, to hurt you. People who don't have that close of a relationship with you cannot affect you on the same level that your family members affect you on. I've had to stop talking to my mother for years. My sister for years. The way I look at it, anybody can get it. Anybody can get it. My relationship with you does not mean that you have the right to disturb my peace, to disturb my mental health, my emotional health, and even my physical health, because I'm so stressed out from dealing with your bullshit. Having blood ties to you does not mean that you get to do that to me. Peace to my sister, Sacred Melanin. I'm happy to see you, Sinette. I haven't seen you in a while. She says, seriously. Mike says, I recently started reciting the Zulu declaration each day. Oh, okay. You gotta share that with me. I don't know anything about that. You gotta share that with me. Okay? Yeah, so even when it is family. Now, I want to give you the solution. If you are the person who is consistently defensive and you don't know how to take any form of criticism, the solution is shadow work. That is the solution. Generally, people who are very defensive, they lack self-awareness. They have a lot of shame, which is why they cannot take it when you make them out in a light that is anything less than favorable. They can't take it. That's why they become defensive, because they have so much shame. You are never supposed to say anything about them that makes them out in a light other than what their ego has them seeing themselves as, which is usually a false image. They have a false image in their minds of who they are, and you were never supposed to pierce that veil and show them something else. That's why they're so angry. Okay? So shadow work. Shadow work is a form of journaling that allows you to look at the parts of yourself that you may have been ignoring, things that you need to see about yourself. And it takes courage to do this. It takes a lot of courage to do this. That's the number one thing that you need for shadow work. And I don't really understand why people are so afraid of seeing themselves for who they are. This is a journey that I took very early in my life, which is why shadow work is not, it's not a big thing for me. I've been doing it my whole life. Consciously doing it, probably since about age 10. The reason I don't understand why it's so scary to people is that if you refuse to see what you actually look like, that doesn't mean that nobody else can see it. You still look like that. Just because you don't want to look at yourself in the mirror, you still look like that, and everybody can see it. So what you hiding it for? You're hiding it from yourself, which means that you don't have the ability to fix it. That's like if you got a snot hanging out your nose and you don't want to go look in the mirror because you're afraid you got snot hanging out your nose. Well, you still got the snot there, okay? And everybody else can see it, and you look a hot mess. You're embarrassing yourself because you won't go and take yourself in the bathroom and look at the mirror and clean yourself up. That's how people look when they refuse to be self-aware and do their shadow work. You out in front of everybody else looking a hot mess and people can see it, but you won't go look in the mirror. My sis says she just choked. But it's true. That's how you look. So, one thing that you can do is get yourself a journal. Get yourself a journal. Now, you can do this the most inexpensive way, which is to go on Google. Use your phone, use your computer, go on Google and look up shadow work prompts. Shadow work prompts. They're going to give you certain questions that you can ask yourself. And you know which questions you need to ask yourself based on the things that you're experiencing. If you're having issues in relationships, go and get some shadow work prompts regarding relationships. If you're having issues with money, get some shadow work prompts regarding money. They're going to ask you certain questions. That's what the prompt is. And you get in your journal and answer the question honestly. Honestly, do not be afraid of how you look to yourself. Don't be afraid. Because them same demons that you're running from, they're going to find you if you keep running from them. And they'll get bigger. They get bigger because they feed off of your fear. Did you know that? Demons, low vibration emotions, they feed off of your fear of facing them. Another shadow work journal that I could tell you about. There's one that's actually on my wish list. I've been wanting to get it. I just know it's good. I have not read it yet, but it's highly recommended. It has great reviews. I want to get it for myself. It's called the Shadow Work Journal. So this is also quite inexpensive. You could do it the free route, which is use a journal, a fresh journal, and get some shadow work prompts on Google, or get the Shadow Work Journal workbook and actually do the exercises in it. That's what is called doing the work. When people are saying doing the work, that's what they're talking about. Doing your shadow work. Okay, I think I've stressed that enough. Okay. Yeah, a few more. So number 5, the 5th sign of low vibration people is poor hygiene. Poor hygiene. Now, we kind of talked about this in the first sign that I mentioned on here, but this is another aspect to it. Poor hygiene. So, bad breath, unwashed hair, not taking showers, dirty fingernails, ashy, dirty feet, okay? Dirty clothes, bad body odor, bad sexual hygiene. When you're dealing with someone who has very poor hygiene, trust and believe that is someone who is operating on a very low vibration. People who care about themselves take good care of their hygiene. It's a sign that something else is going on. And sometimes what could be going on is obviously the person is going through financial problems, financial difficulty. But I'll tell you this. That's not always the case. Unless the person is it's a child who just doesn't know how to take care of themselves. But an adult, you'll figure out how to get clean even if you're homeless. Ask me how I know. I've been there. I've been, as an adult, living in my car, and you ain't never smelled me. First thing I did when I was in that situation was got myself a gym membership. That was the first thing I did, because I was not going to be smelling bad. Got me a gym membership so I could get clean every day, and found me the nearest laundromat so I could clean my clothes. So even poverty is not necessarily an excuse. Someone who has the right mindset is going to figure out how to get clean. So usually it's a sign of something else. And I learned this from a therapist, that one of the reasons that someone will neglect their hygiene is because something in them is so depressed, sad, and disconnected from reality. that smell that comes off of them, that odor that comes off of them from sitting in their own juices and their own filth, it reminds them that they're still alive. I know that sounds crazy, right? That may sound very weird to you. But psychologically, that's part of the reason that some people will sit there in their room, not bathing for days or weeks at a time, not washing their hair. Because smelling that odor on themselves, that body odor, is a reminder to them that they're still alive. It's like a deep primal instinct. So it's a sign that something is really wrong when you see someone who has a very poor hygiene. And this is something that I think that I need to talk about in depth separately, like do a hygiene video for men and women, because a lot of people do not know what good hygiene is. And typically people who have poor hygiene also have poor health. Hygiene and health are very closely correlated. They're very closely intertwined with each other. This is why working as a healthcare worker, one of the first things they tell you and they teach you about in terms of not spreading disease is hand hygiene. You have somebody coming in to always sanitize things. Housekeeping. Wiping down things with bleach and disinfectant. Washing your hands before and after you touch a patient. Hygiene and health are very closely related. So whenever you see somebody has a very poor hygiene, is a sign, it's a huge sign that that person's vibration is very low. Their thinking may be very low. Emotionally, they may be very depressed, or they may be physically sick. Okay. So I'm not going to even get too much into the solutions now on hygiene, how to clean yourself up, because it's an extensive topic. Like, I can make several videos about hygiene. And so I'll do that in another video where I'm speaking specifically on women's hygiene. You know, I can go through the basics. You need to be keeping your hair washed every week. You need to take a shower or a bath every day. Multiple times a day if you are working out. Or if you live in a very hot climate during the summertime. Brushing your teeth, flossing, brushing your tongue, especially after you eat. Okay? This is extensive, so I'm not even going to get into it. I'll do a separate video on hygiene. Okay? So the next sign of low vibration people is a negative mindset. Sanette Curti says, real talk. And peace to everyone who's coming in now. Just send me a wave if you're coming in and let me know where you are watching from. Okay, number 6 is a negative mindset. Mike says, spend time in the sun and in nature is a great way to raise the vibration. Yes, very true. And a great way to help you to feel connected spiritually as well. Okay. Negative mindset. Someone who is pessimistic sees the worst in everything and in every situation. These people will literally suck the life out of you. I have a family member who, if I call them and I ask them, how are you doing? Oh, I'm holding on. Oh my gosh. Every time I get on the phone with this person and they say this, I cringe, which is why I don't talk to them. why I don't talk to them. Because they don't ever have anything good to say. I don't want to hear that every time I talk to you. Can you find something good to say? I'm holding on. Golly. Okay. Now you can see this on people's physical appearance. I know someone who has a very bad attitude, very miserable person, and it's literally appeared on their face to where their forehead looks like this. It's permanently like this from frowning all the time. You can see it on the person's face how miserable they are. Okay? So if this is you, if you're the person who always sees the worst in everything, the best solution for you is to practice gratitude. That's the best solution. Practice gratitude. Wake up every single day and say a prayer of gratitude. Thank your ancestors for bringing you here, for all that they did to get you here. Thank your Creator for giving you another breath, another day of life, another opportunity to do things differently. Gratitude. Gratitude. Another way to reverse a negative mindset is volunteer work. Volunteer work. A lot of people have a negative mindset because they are constantly focusing on what is not going well in their life, where they're not getting what they want in their life. Instead of focusing on what you don't have in your life, focus your attention on doing something kind for somebody else. I promise you, you will feel better. I promise you, you will feel better. Volunteer work was one of the things that I did very early in my life to help myself heal from depression, growing up in the circumstances that I grew up in. Okay. Had a lot of different family issues, poverty issues, all of those things. And when you focus on those things, yes, you can feel depressed and stressed and anxious. And I didn't want to feel like that. And one of the solutions for me was volunteer work. I've done a lot of volunteer work throughout my life. I started at age 16 where I went to volunteer at a nursing home. I would volunteer at nursing homes to go see the elderly, talk to the elderly, things like that. To be honest, that wasn't my favorite form of volunteer work, so I didn't do that very much. What I did like was going to the soup kitchen. I had a lot of fun there. So I did that for pretty much my whole senior year of high school. I volunteered at the soup kitchen in the Bronx. It's called Part of the Solution. Pot Soup Kitchen. You feel so much better about yourself knowing that you're doing something good for somebody else, but also it takes your attention off of yourself because you're focused on a task. You're working with other people focused on a particular goal. You now start to forget a little bit about those problems that you had. You start to forget just a little bit about all those problems that you were focusing so much of your attention on, ruminating over, and allowing it to lower your vibration, because all of those negative thoughts lower your vibration. Worry, stress, fear, those are all very low frequency emotions. But you know what's higher on the scale? Gratitude. Peace. It's hard not to feel those emotions when you're working towards a common goal with other people, especially a goal where you're doing something kind for someone else. Those people are going to be so happy and grateful to see you. Those people thank you. Because you're finding people who are oftentimes in a worse position than you and doing something kind for them. That's one of the ways to raise your vibration if you're someone who constantly has a negative mindset. Okay. Peace to everyone who's coming in now. Okay. And what I would tell you in this situation in dealing with someone who has a negative mindset, the solution for you if you're dealing with this person. One of the things I tend to do if I'm talking to someone who always has something negative to say, peace to you, friend DeMarco. I like that name. One of the things that I tend to do when I'm talking to someone who has a negative mindset is I will counter the things they say with something positive. Excuse me if y'all can hear a lot of that noise in the background. Poor baby. So one of the things that I'll do when I'm talking to someone who is constantly saying negative things is I'll counter it with something positive. So, for example, take Mondays. One of the things I notice working in corporate environments, which I really cannot stand, is on every Monday, guaranteed, when you get into that elevator with your coworkers, somebody is going to say, "Oh my God, it's Monday. Oh, it's Monday." Guaranteed somebody's going to say that. And I cringe every time somebody says that. And normally what I will do is I'll respond by saying, give thanks for another day. Give thanks that it's Monday. It's a new beautiful start to the week. Usually when you do that, they recognize how negative what they said was. You don't have to tell the person, "Oh, don't be so negative." You don't have to tell the person that. Just say something extremely positive in their presence. A lot of times people will kind of balance it out and correct it because they don't want to sound so negative. They'll kind of balance it out a little bit, you know. Some people still don't get it. But that's how I like to do it. I'll usually counter it by saying something really positive. Or if it's a day where it's raining outside and they're like, "The weather is pretty nasty, isn't it?" I'm like, "No, it's just raining. You know, it was pretty dry out and the earth needed that water." I'll say something like that. So counter it with something positive. Now, again, remember that people who have a low vibration, they tend to be very annoyed with people who are very happy. So some of those people will be very annoyed with you for speaking like that. So the only other thing you can do in that situation is to avoid them. Keep it moving. You can be the light in the situation, and some people will catch on. They'll notice. And they'll want to adopt that quality. They'll correct the negative statements that they've been saying because they want to sound more positive like you because that kind of sound good, you know? So some people will follow behind you and do it that way. And other people will roll their eyes. And when you see that, you know you're dealing with someone on a low vibration. You just keep it moving. Okay? And friend DeMarco says, "I'm glad I'm not the only one." I'm glad I'm not the only one. I need some company. Now, number 7. This is the last one. This is the last one, but this is one of the most important ones. This is one of the most important ones. Okay? Number 7 sign of low vibrational people is gossipy. A gossipy person. Someone always talking somebody else's business, always talking about other people. A gossip. This one really kind of, this one digs. This one really digs into me. I cannot stand a gossiping person. I cannot stand a gossiping person. That's one of the quickest ways to get me the hell away from you. If I notice that you like to gossip about people. Gossip is one of the oldest and most effective forms of witchcraft. And if I notice a person who is a habitual gossiper, you are a witch. And that's how I look at you. You're a witch. And I mean that. People who gossip, they take their words and they destroy other people's character. They destroy other people's lives. They create situations that get people messed up, get people jumped, get people into fights, get people to lose their jobs, their wealth, their opportunities off of making stuff up and talking about people. It is witchcraft. And when I see somebody who is a constant gossiper, you are a witch. And that's how I look at you. And it is a quick way for me to get the hell away from you if I watch you gossiping about people. I have noticed people do that in my life, and I noticed the amount of trouble that they cause in other people's lives by talking about other people. I can think of one particular person who I met at the gym. Now, on the surface, she's a very nice person, and they usually tend to be very friendly, and they tend to be charming because they like to talk. They like to talk to people. And they don't care what they're talking about as long as they have something coming out of their mouths, like vomit, word vomit. So I noticed this person telling me other people's business at the gym. And I would know things about people that it bothered me that I knew it from having a conversation with her because it was personal. She would be telling me about certain people's illnesses that they were dealing with in the hospital. And I'm like, this person never told me that. I should not know that information. And so when she would ask me certain things, I didn't tell her nothing. Girl, I would not even tell you the color of my socks. If you don't see it, you ain't gonna know it about me. I wouldn't tell you nothing about me. Especially because I knew she was friends with, people who didn't particularly like me. I wouldn't tell you nothing. People who love to gossip. Witches. Okay? There's a saying that simple minds talk about people. Average minds talk about events. And great minds talk about ideas. If you ever notice that, people who you think of as very innovative, people who are geniuses, when you hear them in conversation with other people, they're always talking about ideas. This is how they progress the world forward because they're talking about passions. They're talking about things they want to see in the world. That is what people who have very high minds talk about. They're not always talking about other people and other people's business and other people's dirty laundry and things that don't concern them. That is a huge sign of a low vibrational person. Somebody who is always gossiping, always talking other people's business. Those are the people who get to be 50 and 60 years old, and they love drama so much they never change. They never change. And one of the reasons they never change is because they never focus on themselves. They'll be 50, 60 years old talking about, I could have done that. I had thought I wanted to do that, but I never got around to it. They never get around to nothing because they always focus on the wrong things. Focus on drama, creating drama in other people's lives, because they're always talking about people instead of focusing on themselves and their goals and talking about ideas that would help progress them forward or help progress their world or their community forward. Instead of doing that, they make trouble for people with their mouth. And they be in the same place at 50 and 60 years old that they were at when they were 20. Those are the women you see who are old teenagers. You look at them like, you at your big age, you talking about this? You couldn't find nothing else to talk about? Gossipers. So, if you're dealing with somebody who is a gossiper, one of the ways that you can respond is do not engage in the gossip with them. Don't engage. Okay? Don't allow other people to bring gossip to you. Be the person that stops gossip in its tracks right where it is. When you are that person who can do that, it will raise your reputation in the light of other people. Other people will see you in a much higher light because you didn't engage in the gossip. Be the person that when people bring gossip to you, you tell them, I don't know anything about that. That doesn't concern me. I'm not interested in that. I don't have an opinion about that. That's how you respond to gossip. I don't have an opinion about that. Another way that you can respond, so for example, someone is bringing you some dirt about someone else. They're talking trash about someone else to you. You can say to that person, would you like me to help you formulate a way to tell that person how you feel about them? If not, then I don't have any space or energy for this conversation. Invite them to let you help them come up with a way to say what it is they want to say to the person who they're talking about. Tell them to their face. Otherwise, I don't have any space or energy for this conversation. I don't have an opinion about this. That's how you can stop gossip in its tracks. Don't engage in it. And if you are the person who likes to gossip, what you can do is what I said earlier, which is focus on yourself instead of on other people. Because if not, you will be that old lady or that old man at 50, 60 years old, still doing the same thing when you were 20 years old, because you did not focus enough time on yourself and you were too focused on other people and creating drama in other people's lives. Focus on yourself. Look at where it is that you need to go. Look at the goals that you need to accomplish in your life and figure out how to accomplish them. This is where coming up with ideas, focusing on and talking about ideas with other people who can get you to your goal comes in. This is how you start to raise your thinking and raise your frequency. You know what I want to do on this live, and I should have said this earlier, is I want to open up the floor for anybody who wants to come on here. And I mean, you don't have to show your face if you don't want to, but I would love to see your beautiful face if you want to come on. So you can just send me a request to join the live with me. Okay? That was the last one that I have for you all. So if anybody wanted to comment and join the live and give me your feedback, your opinion, your experience with low vibration people, or any signs that I didn't mention, feel free to send me a request to join so we can chat. Or if you have any questions or comments, put it in the comment section. Peace to you, Sinette. Mahalo, Chef. She says, peace, much needed convo. I think so. I think so. All right, so I don't have any requests to join me on video right now, but I'll say this for anyone who was watching. I will open up that option for every live going forward, because we haven't done that before, and I would love to speak to you all face to face. Like, I want to have some of y'all come on and talk with me as well. So if you see me on here and you got something to say and you want to be on video, just send me a request to join the live so we can talk. Okay? If there are no questions or comments, thank you all for being here with me tonight. I'm going to leave this up on Instagram for another, I want to say 72 hours, and then it will be on my YouTube. If you don't know my YouTube, you can click the link in my bio here, and there's a little YouTube icon on my link tree. Just click that and you can get to my YouTube. It's Kemetic Wellness on YouTube. So all of these lives will be there. Okay? I will see you all next Monday. Okay? Peace.